南无本师释迦牟尼佛，南无本师释迦牟尼佛，南无本师释迦牟尼佛。We pay homage to our respected teacher, the Shakyamuni Buddha. Okay, so sorry that I have to miss last week. I had some urgent trip to make down to San Francisco. So anyway, I make it up for you tonight. All right. So there is a question. Actually, it was just timely. If there was a Dhamma sharing last week, but I think it's still okay to do it after math. So this question was raised. A bit of history. Laurie asked me to talk about a bit of history, different traditions, celebrations about the bathing the Buddha, the Vesak. Why we bathe the Buddha statue, the sutra selection, things like that, or is that common knowledge for most people? So I put all the questions on one slide. So I'm going to I'm not going to do one question after another. I'm just going to give you a general idea of Vesak. So if Vesak in the Theravadan tradition, that means in the Southern tradition, I like to call it a Southern tradition. That means the Buddha's teachings traveling south to southeast to Burma, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and all those places. So it's called a Southern tradition. Whereas when it goes up north to China, it's called a Northern tradition. Okay, so that's how actually it's another name to call Theravadan or Mahayana. But where I like it Northern or Southern because when it's called Mahayana, that means Maha is big. When there is big, then there is a smaller, right? So that's why Theravadan. So the Buddha's teaching doesn't have big or small. When you think about big, a lot of people think, oh, my practice is bigger. My practice is better than your practice because your practice is smaller. It's called Theravadan, the smaller vehicle. So that's why I like to call it the Northern tradition or the Southern tradition. So the Theravadan is called the Southern tradition because it travels south, from North India to southern part. So it's called Vesak. So in the old Indian tradition, in the old days in India, of course, I mean you all know that India doesn't really have much history itself because it never kept their own history they never recorded their history, and most of the history of India actually came from the journals, came from the exploration, and came from the journey of Master Xuanzang, who actually went from China to India, and he recorded on the way on the Silk Road. He recorded what he saw, he recorded what he met, and he recorded what he actually encountered. So a lot of Indian history was actually was found in Master Venerable Monk Xuanzang's recorded journey on the Silk Road. So when we talk about Vesak, it's talking about a day or a month in the month of May, the full moon of May. And it's normally the full moon of May very regularly, a lot of times falls onto the lunar calendar. In the lunar calendar is April, okay? So it's the full moon day of May, they call a Vesak. And in the old days, they will have they believe that that is the day that the Buddha was born. Okay, full moon day of May. And it's actually, they believe that it was the day that the Buddha was born. The Buddha actually attained enlightenment, and the Buddha went into Nibbana. Of course, not on the same day, but the same day in different year. Okay, so the Buddha was born on the full moon day of May, and then 35 years later, he actually attained his enlightenment on the full moon day of May. And then when he was 80, he actually went into Nibbana on the full moon day of May. So it's always fall onto full moon day of May, according to the Theravadan tradition. So that is what actually is actually being celebrated in Southeast Asia countries on this full moon day. So they sometimes celebrate for one day, sometimes they celebrate for the whole month. It's called the Vesak month. Okay, so when they celebrate, what do they do in the Theravadan traditions? They have Sangha offerings. That means they offer to the monastics. Of course, normally in the Southeast Asia countries, they always have Sangha offering because monks go out for alms. So every day they will have an alms offering, right? When the monks go out to beg for food. But on Vesak day, of course, they make it more special. They may offer flowers, they may offer garlands, and they may offer robes. And so it's more offering on that day. Or people go, of course, in the Theravadan tradition, it's now still practiced by householder women and men. It's called uposatha. So they go into monastery to stay for the day in the monastery to sit together, to meditate together with monastics, and to do chores, or even cooking inside the monastery and offer to the monks and nuns. And also on the uposatha day, sometimes they take the householder men and women, they take the 8 precepts. So they observe the 8 precepts for 24 hours. So that is what they do in Southeast Asia, and they call, and why would they choose the full moon day of May? Because if you trace back to history, even very renowned scholars, they really cannot pinpoint the day when the Buddha was born. Because why? Because before the paper was invented, there was nothing being recorded. Everything was passed on by oral tradition. And then there was I forgot about the English word of writing on leaves, you know. And then there was this writing on the leaves, and that was way past the Buddha's time. So at the Buddha's time, it was oral tradition. So everything was passed down orally. So I think at that time, even though there was thinking that there was a few days that they think, or few years that they think that Buddha was really born in those years or days, but nobody can really verify that was the true day or true year. But does it really matter? It really doesn't matter, right? It really doesn't matter. What matters is we have the teachings, and so when it was believed to be the full moon day, and the full moon actually symbolizes something, represents something. It symbolizes the perfection of wisdom, the perfection of merits, the perfection of virtues, the perfection of compassion of the Buddha. So it's perfected enlightenment. So it's not just simple enlightenment, it's perfected enlightenment. So it's like a full moon, it's complete. There is no blemishes, okay? So I think United Nations actually have also, what do you call that? Made the full moon day of May as the United Nations Day of Vesak too. I forgot which year that they actually made it. So that is in the Theravadan or in the Southern tradition. Whereas in the Northern tradition, we call it Mahayana tradition. It's actually, we actually celebrated the birth of the Buddha on the April the 8th, is the lunar calendar. And lunar calendar, what's today? Today is the 9th of lunar calendar, so we are still like 6 days away from the full moon day, right? 6 days away from the full moon day, right? Yeah, the full moon is the 15th, right? Yeah, so we are still 6 days away from the full moon day. But that's what the traditional, the tradition in the Northern Northern tradition holds, or the Mahayana tradition, or your Chinese tradition, is the 8th. And it's believed that when the Buddha was born, he was already able to walk. So, I mean, this could be a story, legend. And he took 7 steps. And when he took 7 steps, each step when he took, there was dragons from the sky, pouring water over his head. And that's why in the Mahayana tradition, the Northern tradition, on the 8th of April, or sometimes nowadays people try to do it on the Sundays, or on a Saturday, so that people who go to work can actually enjoy, celebrate the Vesak too. So that's why in the Northern tradition, we actually use a scoop to pour water over the body of the Prince Buddha, and some people believe that they can pour water from the head all the way down, or in some monasteries that you shouldn't pour water over the head, you should pour water over the shoulders because it's more respectful. But according to a few actually Chinese sutra recorded, it says from the top to the bottom, allow the water from the top to flow. So it's really up to each monastery whether they choose to pour the water from the head or pour the water from the shoulders. It's really up to different monastery what kind of etiquette they want to follow. So that's the birth of the Buddha, is on the April the 8th, and then on April the 19th, the 15th, it's a lunar calendar, remember that. And it's called the Luminous Day, Phật Hiến Nhật. It's called Luminous Day. It's believed that on the 15th day, after the 7 days after the Buddha was born, his mother actually passed away. His mother passed away and arose to the two-seater God, two-seater heaven. Then the Buddha actually illuminated himself and blessed his mother, and at that time, because of the illumination of the Buddha, everywhere was bright, and so all the devas and all the heavenly beings all came to pay respect to the Buddha, and also to remember the mother of the Buddha. So that's why that day is called the Luminous Day of the Buddha, okay, because he actually shines, Okay, so and then in the Northern tradition, the Enlightenment Day is the 8th of December, also in the lunar calendar. So on the 8th of December, we call it the Day of Enlightenment, and a lot of time in the Northern tradition, we actually they make porridge. They make porridge, and then offer to everybody to actually to celebrate. So it's kind of very different tradition in the Northern tradition and in the Southern tradition. And also on the 8th of February, you can see everything is 8th, except the luminous day. Okay, the birth is 8th of April. The enlightenment is the 8th of December in lunar calendar. And the Nibbana, that means the Buddha passed away. Really not passed away, went into Nibbana. And that's February the 8th. And then also, as I said just now, he was born on the April the 8th. And then 35 years later, he got enlightened on December the 8th. And then when he was 80, he passed away on the February the 8th. So this on the birth of the Buddha, actually he has been adopted since the Song or the Tang Dynasty in China. That means about like almost 2,000 years ago. They started having this bathing of the Prince Buddha, like a little young Buddha, almost 2,000 years ago in China. But in India, in the old tradition, they used to bathe the Buddha every day. Because it's like signifying like taking a shower and cleansing. And in India, because it's so hot, so people take shower every day. So they bathe the Prince Buddha every day. So that's a kind of different tradition. So when we bathe the Buddha, and what does it symbolize? It's bathing, it means like cleaning, right? Cleansing. And so it means with bathing the Buddha, it symbolizes us, we bathe ourselves, we cleanse ourselves with the Buddha's teachings. So we purify our mind, purify all the pollutants with the Buddha's teachings. So, you know, in the Buddhist practice, is actually everything is symbolic. Like I don't know whether you see, there is an oil lamp behind me all the time, oil lamp, and in the morning we offer a glass of water, and after lunch we collect that glass of water and put it away. And everything is symbolic. Why do we have an oil lamp 24/7? That means oil lamp is brightness, right? Brightness. And when there is a brightness in a dark room, the whole room will be lit up. So it symbolizes, even though we are in a mundane world, even though we are in a world of 5 turbidities, it's dark. But because there is Dhamma, there is the Buddha's teachings, there is light, there is brightness. So we don't have to be forever in darkness. We practice the Dhamma. And why do we offer a glass of water? It's not for the Buddha or Bodhisattva to drink, nor for us to drink. It's symbolic. We want to practice ourselves until our mind is as pure as the water, and you can see through it. As clean as the water, you can see through it. It's transparent. It's got no blemishes, got no pollutants, no dirt, nothing at all. It's clean, pure water. So it's symbolic like that. So So, you know, we need to understand these. Otherwise, if we don't understand and we just offer a glass of water or we just offer oil lamp and people ask you, what does it mean? It's like, I have no words. I cannot explain. There is always a reason behind every offering. Okay, so remember this. So, you see the difference between the Northern tradition and the Southern tradition. So you came. Some of you actually went online for the Buddha's birthday, and you can see this little prince. And so you can see that little scoop, which is sort of like on the left-hand side, near the blue bowl. You can see that little spoon. So, and you can see the little prince is like this, with his right hand pointing up and his left hand pointing down. And what does it mean? It actually means something, okay? Also symbolic. It says, 天上天下唯我獨尊. It said, above and below, I am the most supreme. I am the most supreme. And people would think, wow, how arrogant the Buddha is, or how arrogant the little prince was. Arrogant, eh? Up above, down below, that means span across the whole space of universe. And he was the most supreme. Nobody can surpass him. How arrogant. Let's go to actually read it from the sutta. So most of you have this book called In the Buddha's Words, right? Most of you have it. And if some of you don't have it, and if you're interested, you can actually order it online. It's called In the Buddha's Word. Okay? Yeah. Okay, and it's compiled by Bhikkhu Bodhi. He didn't write it, but it's compiled. He compiled all the actually many sutras in this book, and actually I have taught this. I think 6 chapters in this book quite a couple of years ago. So if you have the book, you want to flip over to page 73. And this chapter is called The Bringer of Light. That means somebody brings the light, the bringer of light. And it comes, this bringer of light, this whole thing is come from Majjhima Nikaya. That means the middle length discourse. And it's called Arya Pariyasana Sutta. Arya, that means noble person. Okay, and then it says, because some of you might not have this book, so I actually put it down all in the PowerPoint. And he said, I am one who has transcended all, a knower of all. That means I have transcended everything, and I know everything. Okay, so and then he said, unsullied among all things and renouncing all. That means he is pure among everything. Unsullied, that means pure, clean. And renouncing all, that means he doesn't attach to anything. There is no desire, either mundane or super mundane. He, it's the way it is, right? And page 73, okay? And then by cravings ceasing freed, so having known this all, that means he has, all the craving has been ceased, and he's free from all craving. Whether it's minute one or a big one, okay? Having known this all, that means he knows all of this. For myself, to whom should I point as a teacher? I know all of this, I'm free. I'm totally free. I'm free of all stuff. I'm free of all cravings. And I have transcended all, and I know everything. And so, who can be my teacher? Nobody can. Because there is none whatsoever, none of anybody who is a knower of all, who can transcend, and who has renounced everything, and whose craving is completely gone, free of craving. There is none of those people in this universe except me. And he said, he continued, he said, I have no teacher, and one like me exists nowhere in the world. He enlightened on his own. He became enlightened on his own pursuit. Even though he had some teachers before, he had a couple of good, very great teachers, but even though he followed those teachers, and whatever those teachers actually taught him, he learned it just like that, and he transcended. He excelled, right? He excelled them. So he said, whatever they taught me is not enough, because that's not enough for me to actually know the truth of this universe, about this universe. And whatever they knew, I already know. So it was all in this sutta, okay? So he said, I have no teacher, and one like me exists nowhere in the world. So that means there is no second person who will be like him. Okay? And then he said, with all its devas, because I have no person for my counterpart. Even with all the devas, all the heavenly beings, still, there is nobody in this heavenly existence who can be compared to my existence, who can be compared to my wisdom, who can be compared to my knowledge. There is no counterpart. I have no partner. I have nobody who is equal to me. And he said, for I am the Arahant in the world. I am the teacher supreme. Arahant, that means all defilements, all afflictions completely abolished. And he attained the supreme enlightenment, not just arahantship, supreme enlightenment, Samma Sambuddha. And I am the teacher supreme. That's why he said, I'm the teacher supreme, because I can teach you how to attain arahantship. I can teach you how to attain Samma Sambuddhaship. I alone am a perfectly enlightened one. So these all echoed to the last two passages that he talked about. And he said, whose fires are quenched and extinguished. What kind of fires? The fires of lust, the fires of ignorance, the fire of anger, the fire of greed, the fire of doubts. All these fires that actually hindered us to become enlightened. So he said all these fires are quenched and extinguished. These are all being put out. By whom? By himself. By himself, not by anybody else, not by his teachers, not by anybody, but by himself. So and then he said, and here for this whole passage, for I am the Arahant in the world, I am the teacher supreme up above. I alone am a perfectly enlightened one. So, and whose fires are quenched and extinguished? What kind of fires? Below. All the fires of the lower realm. You see, above and below, everything. Everything. So that's why he said, I am the Supreme One. I am the perfectly enlightened one. So, and he said, because I am perfectly enlightened, because I have realized this on my own, and there is nobody who can compare to me. So now he said, I go now to the city of Kasi to set in motion the will of Dhamma. So he was begged by the devas to come out to teach. But he said, my teaching is so profound, is so difficult, and nobody could understand. But the devas keep begging and begging and begging. That's why he said, he eventually said, okay, I will go. And he said, in a world that has become blind, he said, I am going to set in motion the will of Dhamma. That means he start to teach the Dhamma, and hopefully the Dhamma, the will of Dhamma will roll on, roll on, roll on in this world that has become blind. Look at us. We are always blind. We are always blind, blind by our own ignorance, blind by our own craving, blind by our own ego, blind by our own anger, doubts, blind by all the hindrances. When we meditate, we are blind by our drowsiness. We are blind by our wandering thoughts. We are blind by our irritation, agitation. The mind cannot settle down. So when we have something like special experience in our meditation, wow, we are so elated. At that time when we are elated, we are blind by that greed. So we are constantly blind. Look at the world nowadays. People are blind. Look at those people who are in high power. They are blind by their own craving. The greed for power, the greed for money, the greed for fame. It's all blind, blindfolded. They can't see. They won't see unless they start to practice. So in a world that has become blind, I go to beat the drum of the deathless. Beat the drum of deathless. Why to beat the drum of death? Why he has to beat the drum? Because drum makes sound. The sound of drums travels. When people hear, hopefully it will wake themselves up. It will wake them up, and once it's waking up, they will start to search the teachings, who will be able to help them to come out of this blindness. So he continued to say, he said, by your claims, friend, you ought to be the universal victor. It's because people ask him about this question. They ask him about, oh, you look very gracious, you look very beaming. So who are you? Who is your teacher? That's why he said all these. I am my own teacher. Okay, so then he replied to this man again who asked the question. He said, the victors are those who are like me, who have won the destruction of taints. And mind you, these taints are taints of lust, taints of greed, taints of anger, taints of ignorance, taints of love, taints of doubt, taints of arrogance, whatever you want to call those taints, whatever taints that actually taint you, okay? And he said, I have vanquished all evil states. That means the mind is always in the state of wholesomeness, skillful. As I said in meditation, skillfully mindful, sammasati, correct kind of mindfulness. And therefore upaka, that means a male a householder, I am a victor. That's why he said, up and above, low below, I am the most supreme. So there's nothing arrogant about it. Really, nothing arrogant about it. It's the state of fact. It's factual. So that's why we bathed the Buddha, the Prince Buddha. We wanted to remind ourselves, we are the only one who can actually purify ourselves, who can come out of our own taints, who can come out of our own greed, who can only quench and extinguish our own fires. Nobody can do that. Nobody. Even the Buddha stand in front of you and tell you to I can help you. There's no way. He can't. But what he taught us, if we practice, then we can do it ourselves. And we need to do it ourselves. That's why the Buddha said, either you become a master of your own mind or you become a prisoner of your own mind. Right? So it's up to us. Okay? So it's good for this Vesak? Anybody have any question about this? I hope I have answers all those questions as Laurie asked about Vesak. This is a very good book. If those who haven't got it, I really strongly suggest you to actually get a copy. Wonderful one. You can go into the Samyutta Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya to go through all those Nikaya, all those long discourse, middle discourse, short discourses. But this is sort of like a summary, and then the real not the essence, but here it gives you a really thorough compilation of the very important suttas that actually, if you actually know this book by heart, you know everything. So, I love this book. I keep reading it all the time. So it's called In the Buddha's Words. But sorry, there is no Chinese version of this book yet. Okay? So anybody have any questions about this before I go on? Or anybody have anything to share about this before I go on? No? So you understand a little bit more about the Buddha's birthday or bathing of the Buddha ceremony, right? Good. Okay. So hopefully next year, when you bathe the little prince, you'll have a much clearer objective, a much clearer mind, and more focused mind, more mindful mind to bathe the Buddha, the Prince Buddha. Okay. So, isn't that beautiful? Our dogwood flower. Yeah. I love to share with you because it's a very short session tonight. I have no questions. No question, because I think most of the people didn't expect me to actually come on tonight. So I only had this question before the Vesak. So I just wanted to share with you some of my actually experiences, or some of my happy experiences, which I don't attach to, but I would like to share with you. It was yesterday. Yesterday I went to the prison to teach. We started going back to the prison to teach. I think yesterday was the 5th week. Yes. So we've been going back in one of the prisons, just one prison, since April, beginning of April. And so yesterday it was my turn to go and teach. So I was there, and so we talk in the beginning. We had a very, casual sharing. And so I asked the guys, because we gave we gave each of them a little book of Dhammapada. Dhammapada is the verses of the Buddha. There are 423 verses in there. And if you don't have that Dhammapada, I strongly recommend you to go and get one. And put it in your purse, put it in your backpack. Everywhere you go, travel, take that Dhammapada with you. That's what I do all the time. And it's very funny. Before the pandemic, when we went to Fort Mountain, we gave out Dhammapada also. And one time, that week that we gave out that Dhammapada, the next week we went back, and when we had a break, one of the officers came in and knocked on the door, and he said, "Sister, I saw that some of them have a little book." I said, "Yeah." So that's the a Buddhist Bible, right? I said, "Well, if you want to call it a Bible, feel free. But we don't call it a Bible. It's called a Dhammapada. So can I have that Bible? Can I have a copy of that Bible?" I said, "Sure, I will bring the Bible next week to you." He called it the Buddhist Bible. It was great. I mean, he asked for it. He said, "Can I have a copy?" You know, I was going to ask him you should actually order it online yourself, right? But I thought, no, it would be nice to give him a gift. So actually I brought a copy to him, and he was happy. He was so happy that he got a Buddhist Bible. So yesterday, when I started off meditation, I asked the guys, "Hey, how have your week been?" And he said, "It's great." And there was this young guy. I said, he actually brought the Dhammapada with him, and he put it on the side. And he said, "Sister," I said, "How do you like the Dhammapada?" They said, "Oh, great, blah, 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 blah." And this young guy who sat right there, he said, "Sister, I went through this book briefly." And he said, "If I could, in the future, live my life according to what this book teaches, I will be definitely a better person. And I'm going to do that." I said, "Wow, you touched my heart." I was so touched by him. And then I taught meditation. So we had about 40 minutes of meditation. And I mean, I don't rehearse my meditations instructions. I never rehearse my meditation instructions, and I never memorize any meditation instructions. It's just, flow by. And during the meditation instructions, I really didn't teach a lot about the technique, which I should have, because they are new. They are newbies, right? But in the meditation instructions, I said, building up this mindfulness is allowing us to realize with our own experience, how can we change? Because we start to understand the way our mind works, especially when we start to react to certain experience that we experience in our meditation. Oh, this is nice, I like it. So that is the old habit of mind. If you keep following that, I like it, I like it, I like it, you fall into the trap of craving. And the same with animosity. Oh, I don't like this experience, it's unpleasant. And then you try to push it away, and I hate you, I dislike you. Then you fall into the trap of anger and animosity and rejection. So I said, mindfulness helps you to understand more about yourself. And we all make mistakes because we are not saints and sages. So we all make mistakes, and mindfulness helps you to understand your own mistakes and realize the experience of those mistakes, so that in the future you have a choice. At the intersection of the road, you have a choice to choose. With mindfulness hopefully, the right kind of mindfulness, samasati, you will make the right choice and not follow the old path anymore. I said, we all make mistakes. And we will still make mistakes. But we will make less mistakes. And we come to our senses sooner. We realize that we make mistakes sooner. And the seriousness of the mistakes will be way less. That's how mindfulness works. That's how mindfulness helps us. So that was quite brief in that meditation. So, and after the meditation, there was a 5-minute break. So I said, you guys go for a 5-minute break and have some fresh air and come back. And then after 5 minutes, 7 minutes break, they all came back and sat down. And this same young guy, he said to me, he said, sister, when I walk out just now before the break, I had revelation, sort of like a wake up. I said, can you share? Do you mind sharing? He said, no. But his voice became so soft. He said, I said to myself, I forgive you. I forgive you. And I forgive my own guilt. I forgive my own shamefulness. And I felt like I was a snake shedding off all that scales of guilt and shamefulness and shame. And he said, I felt so light. I said, wow. I said, wow. I said, you have given me such a big gift. And I told them, I said, yesterday was my 30th anniversary of monkhood. I've been renounced for 30 years. And on my first day of my 31st year, you gave me such a big gift. I said, that is an invaluable gift. I said, thank you. And he said, no, I should thank you. I should thank this program. And it really touched my heart, you know. It made me wanted to cry. And I said, wow, it's so happy to, as a teacher, or even as somebody who can, I mean, you heard this, you hear this just now. Aren't you happy? Aren't you pleased to hear this? Yeah, big heart, right? It was so happy. And I said to him, I said, you know, I said, the Buddha once said, there are two types of people in this world. The first type is those people who never make mistakes. Those are wholesome, great, good people. And the Buddha said there is a second type of good people. Wholesome good people is those people who make mistakes, but they realize that they have made mistakes. And they correct themselves, they change themselves, and they become better people. And those are the best of the best. And I said, you are one of the best of the best. And he was in tears. He actually dropped his head, and his whole face was so like all red. But I knew he was very pleased with himself. And then I asked a question. It's the homework of last week. Last week was skillful actions, skillful speech and skillful actions. So I said, when you actually have skillful actions and skillful speech, you are actually walking away from sufferings. So how did your week go? And three guys, one guy said, I am walking away from sufferings. And there was another older guy, he said, sister, I am definitely walking away from sufferings. And also, now I can face to face look at people in their eyes. I don't feel shameful. And I can stand up for myself now, which I never was able to do beforehand. And he said, because of all this that all of you have given us. Just 4 weeks. Yesterday was the 5th week. And I said, wow. And then there was this really, really young guy. He said, I missed one lesson because he actually joined in the second lesson. He only knew, he was new. And as soon as he went into the prison, he heard about this and he asked to join in to, so he came for the second lesson and he liked it and he stayed on. And he said, even though I had a good job outside before I came in, I had a wonderful job, a very skillful job, and it's the right kind of livelihood. But still, I think I'm very lucky that I'm here to be able to hear these teachings. So it was great that I just wanted to share with you. And one of them said, if I could really follow the teachings of the Buddha, I would definitely be a happier person, and I'm going to do that. So, you know, they at least, yes, at least at that moment, they were genuine. And whether they will be able to do that in the future, to me, is really not important. Why? Of course, I would love them to be able to do it. But, you know, sometimes it's quite difficult because they might not be with the kind of company, you know, companions, or their living conditions might not be allowing them to have this kind of opportunities, or they are living in a place where you know it's not conducive, and so who knows, right? But at least we have planted seeds in their heart, in their mind, and hopefully one day these seeds will sprout. We become seedling, and eventually will bear fruits. And so, you know, we are just sowers. We're just sowers. Farmers keep planting all the seeds, right? So, yeah. So that's why I wanted to share with you. I think it was very inspiring to me, and it was very enlightening, and it was very happy to hear those. Even though they have difficulties, I mean, I still was very happy to hear that they could share their difficulties with me. Yeah, so that's all my sharing. Yeah. May these blessings extend to all, that we with all the other living beings together will attain the Buddha way. May we wish more and more people will encounter the wise words of the Buddha, study them, understand them, practice them, and help themselves to liberate themselves from all the sufferings, miseries, and be truly happy, free, and peaceful. May you all be well, be safe, be happy, and be peaceful.